Good afternoon, everyone. It's Monty Hibb from the Complimenter, and it is truly a joy for me today to be able to bring the Fourth Place podcast to you. And probably one of the people that's had one of the most fun places in my life is my not only friend Jaroy Carpenter, but we've been business partners. We have done events together. There's just been a whole host of journey. We've walked through seasons in terms of life, and I'll have Jaroy talk a little bit about some of his, his journey with his children and stuff in birth and seasons that we went through. It's just all kinds of things that we've done, life and laughter. And so Jaroy, I think you'll really love being able to hear from Jaroy, and probably all of you will want to have Jaroy start his podcast next week. So I'm a little bitter about that because he's that gifted. But I do know that this is a person that I believe really can help a lot of people. So Jaroy, I want to thank you for being on the podcast today. It's fun to have you today. So we're going to dive right in. How's that feel?
All right, let's do it.
Good. Jaroy, one of the things that we talk about on the Fourth Place is we've kind of broken it down as that there's four places that people want to get to in life. And one of the first places I love to talk about is that place called home. That place that's to be a respite. It's the foundational part that you hope everybody wants to go back to. I mean, I just want to go home. Even if you go on vacation, I want to go home. I want to sleep in my own bed, on my own pillow. Some people travel with their pillow and still travel with their baby bear. It's a childhood thing. We can't get over it. But the fact is, people want to have their first place home to be a safe place. So I want to talk about your background growing up. Give us
Yes.
a little background in terms of like kind of where you were born and what childhood memories do you have growing up, elementary, junior high, any stories? And you're a storyteller. So I think it's going to be fun to hear that. But tell me a little bit about home for you. But we'll get to your current home life. But I want to talk about your childhood home in terms of what do you remember about your growing up, elementary school, middle school, high school, as you think about home and your parents and family.
Yes. Well, I was raised in a little small town called Jacksboro, and it's a little small town between Wichita Falls and Fort Worth. And anyway, my dad was a pastor of a church there and
Wow.
was there for 26 years. So I grew up a PK. That would be pastor's kid. Some think it's perverted kid. You know, it's according to what day of the week it was. But I had such a great childhood.
Wow.
I know a lot of kids that have grown up the way that I've grown up in a pastor's home don't have the same kind of background. They don't have the same kind of feeling of growing up and appreciating where they came from. But my dad was always a very well balanced man. He
Wow.
was well balanced in his ministry, in his home life, in his fun, and what he did. Everyone in his congregation was his friends, and he built great relationships. I was watching something the other day from Chris Hodges, and he made a comment. He said back in the 90s, when a lot of us late 80s and 90s started, it used to be about relationships and building relationships. He said as time, and there was a lot of content, but as time has gone on, we've got a lot of content, but the more content we've stored up, the less relational that we are. He said, we've got to go back if we want to change our home, if we're going to change our families, we're going to change our neighborhoods, ultimately our America, change the world, we got to go back to relationships. So that's what my life was founded on relationships. And I remember being a kid raised there, Dad would take us to camp. Dad loved camp.
Oh,
And
wow.
that's kind of what I get honest, by loving all the camps I get to do. And I still do. Every day I come to work to camp, I feel like I'm the luckiest guy in the world. I always tell people in our district, I love to come to work. Our district office, where our headquarters is across the street. I said, I was talking to him in chapel a few weeks ago. I said, I love it when I turn right into camp. I feel sorry for all of you that have to come over here to this building because camp is really, and you talk about how I know we'll talk more about that, but that's what my life was based on. Dad took us to camp. What I've learned about camp is if you can get people to laugh together, you get people to play together, then they're going to build relationships together.
Yeah.
So
And you've been a relational guy as long as I know you. You're just people want to be around you. You're fun. You're vibrant. You wrote a game book for crying out loud, you know. and pushing the limits on creating life and laughter.
Absolutely.
When you think about life and laughter from your home life in elementary school or junior high, are there any moments that come to your mind when you think about middle school or high school that your experiences that you go, it just causes me to smile when I think about home in that first place?
I'll tell you one of my funny stories is I was challenged one time at a high school game to run through the other team's run through sign before they got there. And I said, there's no way I'll do this. The kid looked at me, it's our rival team. It happened to be the year before we beat them out of the playoffs. Now the next year they didn't win a game, and the next year we were 0-10 and couldn't win. I tell people, so it's like a minute left of the game, and we were getting beat so bad. And one of my friends that wasn't playing the game, he looked at me and he said, Roy, man, this is terrible, them beating us. He said, I have an idea. Why don't we run through the other team's run through sign at the end of the game? I said, no, I'll never do that. I won't disgrace my dad's name, the community, all that we built, everything in this little small town. He said, you're chicken. I said, nobody calls me chicken. The clock ticks down, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The siren goes off to indicate the game's over. And he said, let's go. I said, no. He said, let's go. I said, no. He said, let's go. I said, okay, let's go. So I remember taking off running for this sign. There's probably 3,000 people in the stands. Nobody knows what's going on. Guys are shaking hands. Football team in the stands are walking away. And all of a sudden we hit, about the 50-yard line. I turn around and he does a 180 and goes backwards. But I'm committed. I said, I'm going for this sign, and I keep going. And I know when I turned back around why he left, because those cheerleaders that had painted that sign all week long, they were standing in front of that sign. They saw me running for it. The other team's sign, they'd turned into cheerleader Nazis. They weren't going to let me, but I pushed them out of the way. And right before I hit that one sign, I don't know what that little cheerleader had in her pom-pom. It gave me a left hook that hit me so hard that 10 years later, my kids are born dizzy. Bam, I hit the sign. The band starts playing, we are proud of you, saying, we are proud of you. I went, yeah. I run fast. I see the cheerleaders chasing me. I make it to the field house. The coaches open the door for the cheerleaders kill me. And I looked at him and he looked at me. He said, Carpenter. I thought he was going to high five me. He said, that's the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life. I had to write a letter of apology to Decatur High School. They wanted me to come do a school assembly. That would have been my very first school assembly. But that's the kind of guy I was. Everybody knew that if you knew Jaroy Carpenter, I was daring, I was fun, just full of laughter, and made a lot of friends during that time. Made some enemies from Decatur High School. And I got to go back and speak a few years ago to that school, and I told them that story. And it was so good to tell them.
Oh, that's so funny. They loved you and hated you.
Yes, that's true. But we were always in a small town. We didn't have much to do. My dad, being a pastor, it was an oil town. So everything in Jacksboro was oil related.
Gotcha.
My dad, he was a pastor, so we could only mow the lawn, and make money like once every 2 weeks or whatever. But my uncle sold my dad a snow cone truck. So we became the snow cone peddlers of Jacksboro. So
how old were you when you were peddling snow cones?
I started out when I was about 12 or 13 years old.
Wow.
And I remember my sister would pour the syrup in. My brother David, would do the syrup. My dad would drive, and we would sing songs, and we would go off, and I would sing to the kids, and we'd have fun. I wound up making more money than all those oil field people off of a quarter snow cone. Isn't that amazing?
That's the snow cone man. I never knew. See, this
I was an entrepreneur. Yes.
That's so funny. Well, it's a great transition. So what I'm hearing you say is that home was an important, vital part of your journey.
Absolutely.
And not everybody gets to have that privilege, man. And you and I both have worked in, we've done school assemblies for years together. We've been in the hallways and rooms and conversations with people who go, I don't have that. So one of the things that we know that's really important is that home needs to be a respite place. It needs to be a place of comfort. Absolutely. I really appreciate you sharing how important it was, because all those listening, your past doesn't have to haunt you. It can guide you. You may not have had it, but one of the things that I love is about what home does. So what do you do in your home now that you have children? What is something that you've brought to the table that you try to make your home with your kids? And now you have grandkids. You don't look even possible that it's not even possible that you could have that. But now Caden, is a father, and that's one of your kids. Tell me
Yes.
what home you want to bring now in terms of that. You having a good one. What heritage piece are you bringing to the home front?
You know, I always would have fun with my children. I was really busy. We had a busy, both of us, busy lives. But I always tried to make home when I got home be a place of fun. So I was always, playing catch with the kids, picking on the kids, taking them out. We love Six Flags. I still love Six Flags more than my kids love Six Flags. I mean, I would take them out. I remember whenever I was a youth pastor and all those years and taking kids to Six Flags and little Carly, whenever I left the church and it was the next week, I had no youth group to take to Six Flags. I took Carly. She was 5 years old. I remember that time. And I thought, you know what? This is my focus now. This is my youth group, right? Children's
Wow.
ministry youth group. And we did trips together. We would just always we would do little funny things. We would always do a thing called experiments. So the first time I remember, I found a rubber ball somewhere. We were coming home from church, and I put this rubber ball on the hood of my car or right at the windshield. It had this little, we could see how far we could drive with that thing bumping off. We hit a railroad track and we never saw it. Another time we ate at a restaurant. This Mexican restaurant would give us the tortilla dough for the kids to play with. I remember putting it on the windshield one time whenever we left to go home, and it stuck. It stayed there the whole time. And I said, we're just going to leave it there. We came out 2 years later. That thing had grown and covered a whole windshield. My kids talk about that and laugh about it. We'd go to a place on a vacation. We'd go to San Antonio every year. So we'd leave little things. I'd put a little rubber band on something, or I'd do something. I'd put a rock somewhere, and we would talk about, you think it's still there? You think it's still there?
Fun.
Little things like the pink, the pink insulation and the trap door upstairs to get to your AC units. I would say when they were little, you'd open it up, I'd see that's pink gorilla. His name's Gilla. If you don't go to sleep, Gilla's going to crawl down there. So that's passed on to even my grandkids. And I would be the monster. We'd go out to the trampoline. Here comes the monster. Caden Corbin, no, daddy, no, daddy. And it didn't have to be expensive. It didn't have to, you know what my kids remember? The things that didn't cost us a dime. That's the things that they remember.
I love to say moments make memories. And what I'm hearing you say about home is that home can be a place, even if you've had a past that's been difficult. And I grew up in a violent, volatile home. I was violently abused by my father. But man, I have this opportunity to create a new opportunity. So I really appreciate you talking about the importance of the history of a home, but building a new home in those moments that make memories. It's a good transition to the second place,
Yes.
work, your career. And
Yeah.
man, you've had so many opportunities to do some amazingly positive things, but a couple of things I want to ask you about that second place. What was your first job? And what jobs did you have that you were like, oh man, not sure, but you were thinking like, okay, man, here's where I'm going. I'm going to be this. And you went like, oh no, I'm not. What was your first job? And what's kind of been some of the jobs and things that you've done that you're going like, man, maybe not. I'd love to hear about that. And then we'll talk about what you're currently doing.
My first job was selling Grit magazine. Used to be a magazine, a national magazine called Grit. And I'd had this little pouch. Boy, I was proud of my little magazine pouch. And I'd go across the neighborhood selling Grit for 10 cents a piece or 20 cents a piece. And then Dad bought us, of course, a snow cone truck. Then we began to sell snow cones. And then I went to Gibson's. It's kind of like the Kmart of the
I
day.
remember Gibson's. We had one in my hometown in Oklahoma.
Yeah. Went to Gibson's, and then then I finally went off to college, and then got into my career. I went to college for sports medicine to be an athletic trainer. I loved athletics and I loved sports. And I remember, of course, we were a little small school, so we didn't have athletic trainers or sports medicine. We had a coach come in, and he told me about TCU. He said, there is a sports medicine camp I want to send you to. It's the summer of my junior year. I learned what athletic training was all about, the treatment, care of athletic injuries, and I practiced that through that year. And I was able to get a scholarship to Texas A&M Commerce, East Texas State back then, and was involved there. And just like in high school, I was able to make friends in that environment and just to really make a positive mark in that school.
Mhm.
And Anyway, went on from there and became in age 21, got my first job as a professional athletic trainer in a high school. They were 4 years, Greenville High School. And I went to a school in Dallas, Richmond area called J.J. Pierce. And then my pastor that I worked for, Jadon George, we talked about that. I became a probation officer, I tell people, a youth pastor, same thing. Sometimes you know how it is. And then that's when I got interested because of that background in the school environment and the background in my ministry environment is where those two kind of collided to be the school assembly approach. So that's when I started speaking out and having opportunities and going to local schools as a youth pastor. And then I would do a DD-free presentation. It would be about character, character education, choices, decisions, responsibilities. Did that for quite a bit. And then you and I connected at the end of the late 80s, and you began to pour into me, Jaroy, to go to this next level.
I remember that. Yeah.
And then we traveled together there with our ministries, and then eventually, I had other opportunities to travel some national ministries, and I created me communications, and get real school assemblies and what we did, and it was just a neat opportunity to gain experience in other places besides just what I grew up in. I traveled with some guys that had been places and a lot larger places I had been to. Joshua was one of those guys we worked with, and Dawson McAllister and Al Denson. And they taught me a higher level, of ministry. And what I meant by that, a higher level, they'd been places that I'd never been to. And they said, in order to get to these places, and I remember asking Dawson McAllister this one thing, and this applies to anybody. I said, how did you get to the place you got to? He said, Jaroy, the deeper you go, the wider you get. He said, you can be an inch deep and go for miles, but you're only an inch deep. But he said, if you will dig and apply yourself, personal development, like you used to teach me, in every area, he said, the deeper you go, the wide will take care of itself. And that's what I learned a lot about and going out and speaking and traveling as an itinerant. And then Southwestern SAGU contacted me to be their sports medicine director, and I continued.
You got to go back.
And I got to go back.
Was the start, yeah.
Yeah, and I'd been 15 years, and I'm going, man, do I even remember this stuff? It was like being on a bicycle. So, when I look at my life map and to where that journey took me, and I'm going back, but I realized why I went back, because it took me to this area. It was both fields coming together. Gotcha. And now I began to train, and I developed a thing called the Game Day Challenge, which I still do today. Yeah. Tomorrow, start the tour, and we'll go to 12 different schools across the North Texas area. I was in the room training the guys today, and they don't even have an idea of what they're getting into. It don't matter how many times you tell them, but till you're right there when you're in front of hundreds of kids, and sometimes I go, how did we do what we do? But then all of a sudden it's second nature, it clicks, and I said, don't worry. What I'm teaching you will come back to your memory whenever we go out. So that developed, that had I not did that route and went to those different places in life to develop what I've done now. And then with camp, getting this area, our district superintendent, Rick DeBose, a good friend of ours, said, Jaroy, why don't you come? I said, Rick, I'm a program guy, I'm a games guy, I'm a speaker, a camp speaker. I drive camp directors crazy. He said, well, you know all the tricks, but you know what? It was second nature. And becoming the camp director. But looking back at all those experiences, because I was able to speak to all different types of backgrounds, we have all different types of nationalities. The relationships that I was able to build from my hometown of Jacksboro is what really catapulted me to be what I'm at. I learned a long time ago that when opportunity comes together with hard work, that will equal success. And if
you're talking exactly where I was going to go in terms of the fact that you've always had a great work ethic. I don't think anybody's going to ever be able to accuse you of being lazy. They would have to lie to say it. Yeah. But one of the things in terms of when we talk about work, that second place, when you talk about being at work, you now lead a multi-million-dollar organization. You have thousands of people coming to your camp there in Texas.
Mhm.
What do you believe are the components of a work ethic that really do make not a difference, but make the difference in regards to how you approach that second place work?
You know, I tell people you gotta love what you do. You
Yeah.
know, the old saying, you love what you do, you never work a day. But I really, and you can love it in anything. Everything that you do, every work that you do has the end result of something else in mind that you had no idea.
Yeah.
It leads you to a place where you can help somebody, somebody that's struggling, somebody that needs a friend, somebody that's struggling in their home life, somebody that has been through or going through what you have been through. So whenever I approach work obviously for several reasons. We're all made and we're designed to work. You know, we're designed to go and we're designed to move. I tell people, some people cry whenever they have to go to work. I cry when I have to go home because I love to work so much. That's a contrary to what we're talking about. You know, I'm joking. I love
Yeah.
being able, whenever I'm at home, I'm home. But I love what I do so much. It's because that I've learned that there's more to work than just making the dollar. There's more
That's
to work
really,
than
that's
just
well said.
so.
I really appreciate you sharing that. And the thing that I want to just bring out in regards to this second place, when you think about your career and work, and what Roy's saying is find something that you really do feel like that you don't have to survive, but you actually can thrive in. And you take your competencies, your areas of relationship and understanding and things, and then you fine tune those. And actually, truly, you're probably one of the best camp leaders that there is out there. And you're seeing thousands of people and they want to be around and on location at the camp, but it's related to the kind of work that you've done with your team and staff. And I just really commend you for that, Joy, which is a great segue to this thing called the third place. And you know, I love Starbucks. And man, the founder of Starbucks said, we want this place to be a third place that people can come and go at their leisure, leave when they want to. And it's not controlled environment. It's allowed where they go, vacation spots. Some people will call a faith community a third place. You know, there's certain places that people love to vacation and they go to the same place because it's their spot. People love the beach. People love to go to the mountains. What's your third place? What are some of the places you and Kim went, you know, in early marriage days, and then the places that you still love to go that's kind of become a part of your DNA? But when you're off, you're not working, and you get to go to the third place. I
Mhm.
love, I love to be able to go to live events and watch the best be at their best.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's one of my third place. I love creating memories. I love doing things with people that create vibrancy and life in them and stuff that they've never got to do before. I'm a creative strategist, so I love doing that. But my third place is being able to go to something with other people, and I love people being around me. What's your third place?
You know, I have many third places. I love to get out and eat a good meal. I'm not an expensive eat. I'm a cheap eat. But it's, you get me $1.50 Costco hot dog. Woo! I'm there, man. Make a tadpole slap a whale. That's what I tell people right there, man. I love me $1.50 Costco. You know, I do love Costco. I love my wife and I. We love to go to Costco because it's something new. It's something refreshing. It's and I
They
spend
rotate their products.
yes, yeah, absolutely. In eating out, going shopping together. I love amusement parks. I love, you know, like I said, nobody loves Six Flags more than I do. When I got to camp, I developed my own Six Flags. I tell people this is going to be this is going to be Central Disney World right here in North Texas. I love going out and visiting other camps. Kim and I will go out to the countryside and going out and seeing how do people do what they do. I mean, and I'm kind of twisted like this. It's still work, but it's still refreshing to me. You know, getting out, trying to build a better mousetrap. How can I be better at what I do?
Yeah.
Kim and I, we've been, you know, the past several years been faithful about getting out together and just taking a little longer vacation. They like to go to the Caribbean once a year or go on a cruise and just be together for that 7 to 10 days and
Mhm.
just kind of just find that place where we can just really kind of, wow, you
Mhm.
get to see this in you every day.
Yeah. Well, you're starting to see a little resentment develop because I know about a third place that you actually ran a camp down on the ocean for years.
Yeah, 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 I do.
Loved it, bragged about it. Did I ever get to speak? Oh no.
Did
I don't
you,
know why you kept me away from the
what
ocean.
happened, what happened to your invitation? Did it get lost in the mail? You know why?
Yeah,
Because Reggie and Scotty Gibbons won't let me book anybody else.
that's so funny. So here's a question. When you think about third places for people, what would you say you and Kim love to go spend more time together? It's wonderful. How important has a third place been for you in your life and leadership?
It's everything. And because my brother-in-law used to say, you know, if a man works so much, a man becomes dull. I think it sharpens you because you're able to get away. And I think when you're able to get away, it shows how multidimensional you are. If you just, and I've seen people grind and work, and I've been accused of that. But you know what? I can take a vacation even when I'm here. I can go down to our beautiful lake. I can go to our prayer chapel. I can go to our nature trails. I can go to different things. And because we're in such a beautiful environment, even at work, I can find a third place to sneak away from time to time.
Yeah, to gain perspective, to
Yes.
reflect, to enjoy, to
Yes.
allow life to be able to have its own space for you to be able to just, I love working out. I love, fitness. I love that challenge of that. And I love actually just going down to the gym where I live. It's
Yeah.
just really a wonderful thing. And I think third places are important. And you've actually created an incredibly vibrant third place.
Yes.
And in
Yes.
terms of the fact that I was just thinking, as you were saying, Joyce, before we move into this fourth place, is that I think it's really important for people that are listening to this podcast. I love what you said. You need to make sure that you do it so you don't become dull. And
Mhm.
I say it like this. Oh, the barrenness of busyness. I
Mhm.
know a lot of busy people that can't even answer the question, what do you do for fun?
Mhm.
There's no life and laughter. And it's one of the things I most respect and appreciate about you, Joy. You bring life and laughter to living. Not
Mhm.
everybody can do that, but I think your perspective is a healthy perspective. And I just accurately affirm that in you. And you've always been that way. And now you're starting to prove it. And so, I'm starting now at about 35, 40 years in journey with you to go, you might be onto something here. And I really appreciate and respect that. And you and Kim have been just a model of being able to create third places, even when it's been hard. You found a way to go gain perspective. And I think that's important for all of you that may be listening today to think about that.
Yes.
As we think about the fourth place, and let me give you that definition, and you and I talked about this in preparation for this time today, the fourth place. And this is what I created that I learned as I was dealing with all these people. The fourth place is where we're all trying to get to. And what is that fourth place? It's where passion and motivation meet a resolve and determination to experience the destiny designed for you. I'm living on mission. I'm where I need to be, doing what I want to do in a way that is my signature, my DNA. And when you think about the fourth place as it relates to you, when you're challenging people to find that place, and I know you're doing that, you have a company that you get to lead to help people find, man, this is kind of who I want to be. This is maybe what I want to do. Your sports thing that you're doing this training where these people are like, yeah, I'm interested in sports. What's important in regards to these words? When you think about passion, motivation, resolve, and determination, those four words put together in terms of an intentional focus can create transformational lives that
Yes.
live in a different place. Tell me about what you're passionate about. What motivates you? What resolve do you have? I'm unwilling to allow this to remain mediocre. I won't do it. I want to afflict the comfortable. That's one of the things that I like to say.
Good. That's
I
good.
want I want mediocrity to be afraid of me. It's
Yeah.
one of the things that what is your passion, motivation pieces, resolve, determination, and how's that shaped into being this destiny that I think you have for your life?
You know, when I first came to Lakeview Camp, I wanted to come up with some type of slogan, some type of catchphrase, a vision statement. And we came up with what happens here changes the world. And what I tell people, and I live myself, is that we have an opportunity every day to change people's destinies. That what you do today and what you're influencing, you don't have to be the guy that's doing all the program. You don't have to be the guy on the stage. Your smile can be right at the moment somebody needs, and somebody needs some love. Just that loving smile. It doesn't matter if you're out sweeping, if you're out mowing a lawn, you're creating a beautiful place. And everybody that comes to this place say there's peace in this place. There's
Wow.
peace. And I believe there's peace because our people love being here. They love being able to do their passion. And I believe if there's one thing that probably drives me the most, it's being able to see people laugh together, play together, and being changed together. And when I can see that I've done something in somebody's life today that changed their trajectory for the rest of their life, and it isn't really sometimes anything I think is any big deal, but it's some things in life, the most important things in life are just like that. It's just that moment in time whenever you've been called at that moment for such a time as this.
I love that that motivates you, and I think that's such an important thing. What resolve and determination do you have as you look to the days ahead in your life and leadership that you're absolutely focused? I'm unwilling to allow this to get lost. I'm unwilling for this not to happen. As you think about your destiny and the legacy that I call it, a living and lasting legacy. That's
Yeah.
really the fourth place. And you and I know you've heard me tease, I speak my own funeral. I'm afraid of people like you have being in charge of speaking at my funeral. Too much information, too am I. But I think it's really important that you talk about this thing about destiny. And I heard you mention it. But what are you resolved and determined to do as you think about moving your life forward? Not just in what you've been. Your
Yeah.
history can either haunt you or guide you. And I
Yeah.
can see in this conversation today, it's really guided you. But what are you motivated and determined to do? There's a resolve in you as you think about what you want your living and lasting legacy to be for this fourth place.
Monty, we've always talked about the definition of a legacy as a mark in life you cannot erase. That can either be good or it can be bad. And I want my mark to live on through my children's lives, through those in my associates' lives, through those friends' lives, those people that I've met along the way. And I want my character to speak for itself. I heard this statement the other day that the things that people sometimes don't want to do or hard to do are the things that will bring the greatest results. And I want to tackle things head on. I don't want to be known as somebody that shied away from the challenge, that shied away from adversity. To understand, if I have all the backing of what I've done in my life, and it's behind me. my days behind me are pushing me forward to what destiny has in store for me in my future. And we all are human, and we all sometimes think, "Wow, how am I gonna tackle this challenge? How am I gonna talk?" You know what I do? I reach into that bag of when this thing here helped me go over that obstacle. This thing over here helped me go over this challenge.
Yeah.
And if I just keep, my grandpa used to say, life is hard by the yard, but it's a cinch by the inch. If you would just keep pushing, keep traveling, keep forging on, and understand that everything you do has an opportunity to change a life. That's the thing that is challenging me.
I really appreciate this conversation, Jaroy. And as I just think back over this conversation, it's just fun to be able to understand about how your history, your home world, what you like to do, what you grew up, being the snow cone genius, made you a multimillionaire, freedom to do all of life and leadership.
It's my calling.
Yeah. And then, to have that first job in terms of that, where you're selling magazines for 10 cents and you were proud of your leather bag.
Yes.
Because it gave me a sense of ownership, and I loved hearing that. And then your favorite places. I didn't know I was going to have to get you a membership to Six Flags. You probably have a lifetime membership, so I won't worry about that. But I love what you said about the fourth place, and this is how I want to end today. Jaroy, as you think about the future, what do you think in regards to the way life and leadership is presenting itself in our culture and our environment today. How would you challenge people to go after their fourth place, where passion and motivation meet a resolve and determination that leads to their designed destiny? What would you challenge them to be and to do or to say to make sure they get to that fourth place?
I think it's whenever you have commitment. You've got to have commitment and you've got to have consistency, because what matters is what you keep doing. You know, you could do something for a while and just quit, but longevity. I asked Pastor George one time, I said, how did you get to where you are and to do what you're doing now? He just looked at me and said, longevity, Jaroy, longevity. And he said, if you will do something long enough, talented people sometimes rely upon their own talent. But if you'll let character guide you and longevity and what you know you're called to be, the hard work, the excellence, the determination, all that will trump talent every day. We've often heard, don't let talent take you where character can't keep you. To build a foundation upon character, because in the end, that's what changes you. I learned this phrase a long time, I'll never forget. Watch your thoughts, they become your words. Watch your words, they become your actions. Watch your actions, they become your habit. Watch your habits, they'll become your character. Watch your character, because ultimately that will be your destiny. And I think about that every day.
Wow, it's really good. I think it's a great way to end. And I just want to say thanks for the time today. I think this is really going to be helpful. But one of the things I want to ask you as we leave, what's your challenge? What's challenging you? What are the things that are, your growth point, your thing that's kind of got you like, man, I need to fix this. I need a solution to get to that fourth place in a certain area of life and leadership. What's causing you to go, I got to get better. I've got to fix this. I got to work on this. What do you think is a challenge for you?
And I don't want to contradict myself with what I've said, but I love my work. I love my job. I want to be known as a balanced person. And I really try to work at that, but I know I need to be better, because whenever you love something as much as what I love to do, I can be here for hours and hours and lose track of time. Wow. And I know my child, my Corbin, he's going to graduate this summer with business and finance at Texas State University. And he made a comment. He said, I'll come home this weekend, but I know y'all are going to be busy. I wouldn't say, and I went, of course, this is busy season, getting ready for camp. I tell people we're going up the roller coaster, we run camp until June, then camp runs us. And once that roller coaster goes, you ride or die. But yeah, he's known that in his life. And that's what's developed. I know his work ethic also. But my challenge is and even though we've talked about the things that we do and we know the words to say, but we all have those challenges too, to live a balanced life.
I remember when you said, I so appreciate your transparency. Thanks for sharing that. I remember about 12 years ago, Jaroy, I determined that I was not going to use the word busy to be associated to anything I said or did, because I could see it used as an excuse to go, hey, I love to get together. I know you're so busy. People would come to talk to me and walk up and go, I know you're busy. And I'm like, am I wearing a badge? And you heard me say earlier, the barrenness of busyness. You can be busy, but not fulfilled.
Yes.
You can be doing a lot that has a lot of accolades, but not be living into the fourth place. So I just appreciate you stating that. And my encouragement as we step out of this podcast today, man, pay attention to that first place, your home. Pay attention to the things that you get to call a career, your vocation. Don't allow mediocrity to circle in just because you may be surrounded by it. That third place, make sure you can put on, as I like to say, put on the baseball cap. And as you would say, go to Costco, get a hot dog. It's a good price, good value, and oh, it tastes so good. So you've really given me great motivation as it relates to what I can do to get better my life. And that fourth place is simply to say what you said. Just don't be willing to not commit. Yes. Be consistent, stay after it. You've helped us today. And I really look forward to being able to see how you continue to move forward. And I just am so honored to have been able to have the time to talk with you. Any closing thoughts before we step off today?
Monty, I want to thank you for pouring into my life. Wow, 20, 30 years ago. You know, we were able to work together. We were able to stay connected together. Now we're so busy. You're doing what you're doing. I'm doing what. But it's just neat whenever we connect together. Whenever you came and spoke for me, whenever Texas Section Christian Camping Conference Association, to hear you and to see how your life has developed into what it is, the leadership, and you're making a difference for hundreds and hundreds of thousands of lives. And I thank you for still being that to me. I constantly think, I wake up, what would Monty do? What would Monty do? I do.
My left eye's tearing up right now as we talk. That's fantastic.
But seriously, you've been a
Thank
great friend and mentor to me, and I appreciate that.
Well, we'll have to hook up and get together again. And the one thing that we didn't spend a lot of time on, because here's what America needs to know. If I would have spoken about your wife, Kim, they would have said, oh, that's neat, Jaroy. Can we talk to Kim? Because she's fantastic. So I may have to get her on the podcast to just clarify and clean up all this mess we may have made.
What they say, behind every successful man stands a woman telling him what to do, right? She does. She's another. She's amazing. You know she is.
I appreciate your time today. You've been fantastic. And